Venezuela is preparing to host the 24th Summit of Heads of States and Government of ALBA-TCP. In Palestine, Israeli strikes killed dozens of Palestinians and injured several others in the Gaza Strip. And in Tegucigalpa, the capital of Honduras, a voracious fire has destroyed around 100 small stores in Las Americas market. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. And this Saturday, the ALBA-TCP 24th Summit of the Heads of States and Government will take place in Caracas. For more information, we're going live with our collaborator Garfield Burford for all the details from the ground.
Thank you so much, Luis. Really appreciate it as we welcome you to Caracas in Venezuela for this landmark summit. 20 years of ALBA. Of course, this is the ALBA-TCP 24th summit here in Caracas in Venezuela. Of course, it is not just the 24th summit, but of course, as we said, marking 20 years to the when that famous hug between then President of Cuba, Fidel Alejandro Castro Ruz, and then President of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez Frias, that extraordinary embrace which brought together Venezuela and Cuba, two, of course, leaders of the Latin American left, coming together to create the ALBA movement. 20 years later, 10 member states are part of this grouping of Latin American and Caribbean states. They gather here in Caracas for an extraordinary summit, an extraordinary celebration of the 20th anniversary of that event, as I said, 20 years ago to the day today. Of course, in addition, there has been a significant developments in relation to geopolitics in the world that they will be addressing here today, the leaders, and they've already, of course, started to arrive here in Caracas for that event. Of course, the red carpet already laid out. The final preparations being made for the event. Social movements from across the Caribbean and beyond are here, Luis, for this event. In fact, we can speak with a representative now from one of those social movements. We can now join Candice Sebra, who is the Research and Education Officer for the Oilfield Workers Trade Union in Trinidad and Tobago. Candice will join us right here live on teleSUR English. Candice, if you could answer a little bit this way, how is it for you being here as part of this 24th summit of ALBA-TCP?
This is a very, very important moment, not only for ALBA-TCP, which would have set the stage for the movement which I'm a part of, ALBA Movimientos, because the oilfield workers has been mobilizing throughout the Caribbean. And through that, we would have created the Assembly of Caribbean People that we have had for the past over 25 years. And we're also part of ALBA Movimientos since its inception. And this is also an anniversary for ALBA Movimientos. And it's been quite symbolic because there's a rejoining and a rekindling of the agenda between ALBA Movimientos and ALBA-TCP. And this is very important because if you look at the geopolitical context right now, there's so much happening within the Caribbean, all of the things that we still need to defend that Fidel would have spoken about. Cuba, we have the reality that's happening in Haiti. We even have the breakdown and the shift and the attacks on the trade union movement that we obviously are personally affected by. That is happening. And we have all of these movements that are coming together here in Venezuela, which is so very important. There are very important things happening within Venezuela to counter this geopolitical shift that's happening. And we look forward to see more things, more vanguard things coming out of here, and more vanguard things that are happening, as Fidel would have done so many years ago, as Chavez would have continued to do. And it was very important for Chavez and Fidel to always include the English-speaking Caribbean. As you can see within ALBA-TCP, they do include these Caribbean islands. They've always placed us on the forefront and recognize the importance of the contributions that we would have made over the years. And so I'm very happy to be one of the many representatives. I happen to be the lucky one who got to be here, but I represent so many more persons that are really happy for this very important moment and who would have liked to be here today.
Excellent. Candice, 20 years of ALBA, today marking 20 years to the day when ALBA was formed by, that, of course, with that famous hug between Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro. How does it feel marking 20th anniversary of the movement?
For me, it feels quite symbolic Recently within ALBA Movimientos, there was a huge study, a large study about what it was like to be a revolutionary at the time of Fidel, what Che meant to all of us, if we could be like Fidel, if we could be like Che. And so this is a point of rekindling that history, of understanding the principles and all of the values that they would have stood for, and to try and bring that back and to regather our forces to counter that geopolitical context that is affecting us so very daily today.
Candice, really appreciate it. Candice Sebro there, who is a research and education officer for the Oilfield Workers Trade Union in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the summit, please. Candice there speaking with us about the extraordinary summit that is taking place here today. Of course, just a few hours now. The leaders will come into this building. They will walk on this red carpet. They'll go through a tunnel where all the glitz of the occasion, all the majesty of the occasion, marking 20 years. And of course, they'll be taking a family photo on an image not dissimilar to the one behind me here, Louis, as they gather for, of course, to mark 20 years. This is the 24th summit of ALBA. I was here in Venezuela earlier this year in April, when, of course, the 23rd summit was held. Since then, so many things have happened, so many geopolitical developments that will take center stage here today. There are, of course, the unilateral coercive measures against not just Venezuela and Cuba, but also Nicaragua as well. And there's also the situation in Gaza, which continues to dominate the attention of the world. ALBA taking that on as well. The state of Palestine will be represented here as well. CELAC will be represented. That's the community of Latin American and Caribbean states. All in all, it promises to be an extraordinary summit. The leaders are gathering here, and of course the anticipation is building for that. Back over to you in Havana, of course, keep you across all the developments here on teleSUR. Back to you, Luis.
Thank you, Garfield. Of course, we'll stay tuned with you guys, with you and with Belén de los Santos as well, to everything that is happening in this Paramount Summit that is being held in Caracas of ALBA-TCP in its 20th anniversary, the 24th Summit of Heads of States and Government. Continuing on topic, let's now see about the origin of this important Bolivarian alliance in this following work.
Era 13 de diciembre.
On December 13, 1994, Hugo Chavez arrived in Cuba for the first time.
I think that the ALBA began with that embrace. Since that day of that embrace, my humble life was sealed forever by the side of the giant that is Fidel.
A la mañana siguiente,
Next morning, at the Simón Bolívar House Museum, Fidel Castro sits in the front row to listen to Chavez's keynote address on the emancipated project of the Liberator, adding how it could be realized in the new times. Later, in the Great Hall of the University of Havana, Chavez attached importance to integrating Latin America and the Caribbean as a single nation.
The century that is coming for us is a century of hope. It is our century. It is a century of the resurrection, of the Bolivarian dream, of Martí's dream, of the Latin American dream.
10 años después,
10 years later, on December 14, 2004, the two commanders founded ALBA, the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, an integrationist, historical, and unprecedented organization which changed the history of Latin America and the Caribbean.
An integration mechanism grounded in new principles of solidarity, reciprocity, respect for asymmetries and differences in our economies and societies, respect for the sovereignty of our people, and a full integration of Bolivar and Martí styles.
el escenario entonces era difícil.
The scenario was difficult by that time. In 2005, Mar del Plata was under the world spotlight. The memories of the historical Fourth Summit of the Americas live on many. There, Chavez spoke loud and clear.
Free trade won't sort out our problems of employment, poverty or misery. Those who still believe in that story forget about it.
La conclusión de la
The
cumbre
conclusion of the summit was the rejection of the bloc of South American countries belonging to the FTAA, the free trade area of the Americas boosted by the United States.
en paralelo y eclipsado.
Concurrently, Chavez overshadowed the FTAA by charismatically hosting the Counter Summit, the third ALBA-TCP edition, generating a positive buzz among the 40,000 participants.
Since here, in Mar del Plata, it is the tomb of the FTAA. the tomb of the FTAA. Let's say it. Let's say it. FTAA gets stuffed. FTAA gets stuffed.
20 years later, millions of Latin Americans and Caribbeans have benefited from ALBA's programs. Venezuela, Bolivia, and Nicaragua have been declared illiteracy-free territories. The Miracle Mission has restored sight to millions of people free of charge. And thousands of youngsters in Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa have been trained as doctors.
Many presidents have passed by, here in Venezuela, but there have never been such commitments to other countries. Fortunately, Chavez side-by-side Fidel Castro made it happen. Chavez was able to provide free eye surgeries for us with eye diseases. No government had done such good action before in Venezuela.
Hay mucha pobreza.
Mis expectativas han sobrepasado lo que yo pensaba.
And in my community, there is a lot of poverty. Reality surpasses my expectations. What I thought before arriving, I learned not only to be a doctor, but also to be a poet, to be cultured. I feel that I am different from what I was since I came here. The Cuban teaching doctrine is very deep, very humanistic, which is what is missing in our Latin American countries.
Presidente de Cuba, Fidel Castro, en nombre de todo el pueblo de Olintepeque.
We are really grateful to the President of Cuba, Fidel Castro. So on behalf of all the people of Olintepeque, I would like to thank you for all that you have helped us out. And we hope that you will continue providing your help for us to be able to survive.
Today, the right wing is trying to revive the neoliberal agenda. The challenge is not easy. Chavez and Fidel warned us of it.
Our independence is now or never, and ALBA is that independence.
En Cuba decimos patria o muerte. Aquí me atrevo a decir.
In Cuba, we say homeland or death.
Unida y justa.
Here I dare to say Latin America united and justice or death. But there will be no death. We will be ever onward to victory.
Fabiola López, teleSUR, La Habana.
We now have our first short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, Israeli strikes killed dozens of Palestinians and injured several others in the Gaza Strip on Saturday. Wafa news agency reported that 4 citizens of the Salah family were killed after the occupation shelled their house in Jabalia town, north of the Palestinian enclave. In addition, civilians were injured in an attack on the Jaffa school, northeast of Gaza City. After 14 months of siege that has left much of the enclave destroyed and uninhabitable, thousands of Gazans are taking refuge in schools that are still standing. At least 44,875 people have been killed and more than 106,000 wounded in Gaza since Israel began its genocide in October 2023. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has ordered the military to remain occupied throughout the winter the Golan Heights bordering Syrian territory. The Golan Heights is located in the UN patrol buffer zone separating Israeli and Syrian forces. Israel seized the demilitarized zone on the strategic plateau on Sunday, just hours after Syrian terrorist forces swept President Bashar al-Assad from power. The move drew international condemnation, including from the United Nations, although close ally the United States said Thursday it was consistent with Israel's right to self-defense. Israeli forces launched Friday several airstrikes against Syrian army facilities in the provinces of Latakia and Tartus. According to the Arab multinational TV channel Al Mayadin, The Israeli forces continue their incursion into the south of Syria towards the capital Damascus. On Thursday, the Zionist regime announced it had achieved total air superiority in Syria and it had destroyed 86% of the Arab nation's air defense systems. However, it clarified that some air defense complexes were still operational but are not considered a major threat to the Israeli Air Force. And also in Syria, the new government led by the terrorist group FTS, formerly Al-Qaeda affiliate Al-Nusra Front, has called for demonstrations to celebrate the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad. Various sectors of the population responding to the call and took to the streets with banners supporting the new government. Demonstrations took place in the provincial capitals of Homs, Hama, Aleppo, Idlib, Dara, and Latakia, and in dozens of cities in this Arab nation. These calls come in the midst of the configuration of the control of the country by terrorist groups that are now in power, supported by Western countries, mainly the United States as well as Israel. And in South Korea, lawmakers voted Saturday to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol for his failed attempt to declare martial law last week. Out of 300 lawmakers, 204 voted to impeach the president on charges of rebellion, while 85 voted against. 3 abstained and 8 votes were cancelled. Yoon is now suspended from office while South Korea's constitutional court considers whether to uphold his impeachment. Police estimate that at least 200,000 people filled the streets of Seoul ahead of the vote to demand Yoon's impeachment and arrest. It was the second such motion to impeach Yoon over his failed attempt to impose martial law early last week. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to re-watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Tegucigalpa, the capital of Honduras, a voracious fire destroyed around 100 small stores in Las Americas Market. Fire Department spokesman Oscar Triminio said the fire broke out at about 1 a.m. local time on Friday. However, the alert came hours later when the fire had already spread. Flames were brought under control in the early hours of Friday morning with no fatalities, but there was considerable loss of merchandise. Authorities say electrical installations had not been supervised and that wooden structures adjacent to the building helped spread the flames.
When we arrived at the site, we saw a large fire in an area with a surface floor and 3 lower levels where there were shoe stores, clothing stores, and other kinds of stores.
Chilean experts from the National Seismological Center reported Friday a tremendous earthquake measuring 6.3 on the Richter scale, which shook Valparaiso on the central southern region of the country. The quake had its epicenter 48 kilometers south of Curicó in the Maule region. Authorities assured that the earth tremor did not meet the conditions for a tsunami to be generated on the coast. The natural phenomenon has hit several regions from Coquimbo to Araucanía, with its greatest intensity in the downtown area. So far, no major damages have been registered. Likewise, the official briefing is awaited after their respective assessments in the affected communities. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.